Sexton. The Caliphate is official. The Caliphate is real. This is now getting us into a segment that I like to call the Buck Brief, which is when we go deep dive on national security issues. And
you are entering the Blaze Threat Ops Center. This is a secure space. All outside comms are down. Prepare to receive the Buck Brief.
So they don't really want to be referred to as ISIL or ISIS anymore. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. ISIL or ISIS, depending on, whatever the kids are saying these days. They are just the Islamic State. They released, and I actually have the translated statement from it. They want all Muslims around the world, of course, because it's a global caliphate. They have their ambitions are very realistic. They want everyone to declare, here, I'll actually read to you from it. We clarify to the Muslims that with this declaration of Khalifa, it is incumbent upon all Muslims to pledge allegiance to Khalifa Ibrahim and support him. May Allah preserve him. The legality of all emirates, groups, states, and organizations becomes null by the expansion of the Khalifa's authority and arrival of its troops to their areas. Imam Ahmad, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, as reported by Abdus ibn Malik al-Attar, it is not permissible for anyone who believes in Allah to sleep without considering as his leader whoever conquers them by the sword until he becomes Khalifa and is called Amirul Mu'minin, the leader of the believers, whether this leader is righteous or sinful. So, and then there's more Allah, praise Allah, and some other stuff in here, but I don't need to read all that to you. So they've declared the official caliphate now, and not only is it a caliphate, of course, but it's something that now has to receive the loyalty of all Muslims. This is not a secondary or unimportant position for them, because once they've declared that this is in fact the caliphate and the Khalifa is Abu Omar al-Baghdadi, the head of al-Qaeda in Iraq and Syria, or Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. It's all that. I mean, we're getting the acronyms start to jumble together. I feel like I'm back inside the agency. For those of you who don't know, I used to be a CIA analyst. In fact, I was assigned to Iraq. That was a majority of my time inside the agency was dealing with Iraq. And so now you have a situation where any Muslim who does not join can be considered takfir under the ideology of al-Qaeda, under jihadist logic, if you can call it that, but that's how they think. They can consider someone takfir, which means they're outside of the ummah, the Islamic community, and therefore they can be targeted as non-believers. So even Muslims are not safe, of course. That's what they want to establish here. Never mind those who are guilty of shirk or disbelief, and people like Shia Muslims, for example, in Iraq. That's obviously very much on the forefront of everyone's minds, because what you're seeing is a Sunni-Shia civil war right now in slow motion that could very quickly accelerate. The question for us has been over these recent weeks, the black flag of jihad is flying over northern and western and now central Iraq. Do we have to do something about it? We have 180 military advisors on the ground, 300 plan to be there. Reports came in from over the weekend saying we're flying armed drones. I'm glad at least they're making the decision to arm them. Armed drones for backup support here. But the declaration of a caliphate goes to show you that now this area, which roughly extends from eastern Syria into Sunni majority parts of Iraq in the north and the west, and in what's known as the belts of Baghdad, the sort of towns and cities in the surrounding, almost like the Baghdad burbs, but they're not like any burbs you've ever spent time in, unless you served, which I know many of you did. They're not like your normal burbs. Not a lot of soccer moms and swimming pools. So this is what's going on here now, and you see that there's this declaration, of course, is trying to make this now a global fight. There are what we call foreign fighters, which is kind of a funny term. It's almost a misnomer. Not funny, haha, funny, strange. Because, well, what is a foreign fighter exactly? Foreign from where? I guess foreign from Iraq, sure. But if they're moving back and forth between Syria and Iraq, if they're coming from other countries in the region, they're considered foreign fighters. And they're now waging jihad, and they're trying to take the capital of Baghdad. So there's a very dangerous moment here for the country. I saw over the weekend there was fighting in Tikrit, which is Saddam's hometown. It's north of Baghdad. It's also for you history buffs, the hometown of Saladin from the Crusades, Richard the Lionheart Saladin. Saladin was a Kurd, which very few people tend to know, and was born in Tikrit. In fact, Saddam Hussein, remember him? His hometown is Tikrit, and he, in many ways, tried to conflate his fake legacy, mythology, if you will, with that of Saladin. That was part of his myth-making. And now Tikrit, there was some fierce fighting over the weekend between government forces and ISIS, or now just the Islamic State, as they prefer to be called. Hopefully we're not going to just have to replace them with a symbol. I'm hoping they don't keep changing their name over and over again. But the black flag of jihad continued to fly over a major town square. I saw the Twitter capture of it over the weekend, photos, because, everyone's essentially capable of being a journalist now, because anyone can tweet out and share on the World Wide Web photos of what they've seen in this conflict. So the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria has now declared that it is official, it is a state. They're going to try now to implement Sharia law, which means no cigarettes, no drinking. Women must stay in the home, must be covered to the extreme, as it is mockingly and intentionally mockingly referred to, beekeeper chic, by some of my friends and former colleagues. So that's what's going to be happening now in these areas, and the question is the U.S. going to be, not just is the U.S. going to do anything about it, can the U.S., given the realities of what we're talking about, really do very much about it? I would say the answer at this point is probably not much. If we had difficulty suppressing this in the past, and we had 150,000 U.S. troops on the ground, we suffered almost 5,000 dead. I think the latest casualty figure for KIA is around 4,500 in Iraq. And, of course, many, many thousands more wounded, very grievously wounded in many cases. And we're being told, well, if we just put some advisors, maybe we do some airstrikes, we can suppress this. No, these mechanisms, these tectonic plates inside of Iraq of the Shia and Sunni schism, there's been friction there stretching back for centuries, and right now, Iraq and Baghdad are at the center of a conflict that's much bigger than just the Maliki government or mistakes that may have been made in the U.S. occupation or withdrawal, for that matter. This cannot all be laid at the feet of the United States, despite what the left wants you to believe. This is a Sunni-Shia civil war playing out right now in slow motion. It may accelerate very rapidly.